Nadeem?
I can see your video, Nadeem.
So should Hadi start? Should we correct?
Bismillah. I can see the video on YouTube. Hold on.
You
Okay,
can't.
sure. Jay. No, you're good. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. Sayasla naran zata lahab. Wa imra'atuhu hammalatal habtab. Fi jidiha hablum min masad.
أحسنت جزاك الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا أبو القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآله
ومن المحبين عترة الطاهرين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Welcome to this memorial session in the memory of Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi, Qibla. And thank you, Zega Mahsan, for that beautiful recitation. Thank you. That was by Syed Hadi Raza, Maulana's grandson. Thank you for that recitation. Jazakallah. To begin with, the reminder by the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, hardly requires any translation, tafsir or ta'wil. We're all totally aware that death is an inevitable part of life. Those who are born die. Its timing is not predicted, but its coming is definite. As I say, Jab Ahmad Mursal na rahe to kaun rahega. Today, we gather virtually to remember and pay tribute to a life well lived, a contribution well made, a leadership well provided, a scholarship well delivered, and a penmanship well expressed. Such people leave behind an unforgettable legacy before their departure to their ultimate abode. That well-led life was of the late Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi, may Allah elevate his status, who left this mortal world on Sunday, September 26, 2021. Today, we have an array of luminaries from ulama, community leaders, academics, men and women on this esteemed panel to pay tribute to Maulana Tilmiz Sahib, as he was fondly known to us all, a man who touched young and old through his almost 4 decades of tenure in the USA. As his life and times over those decades here in the US in particular unfold today, we will realize that people like him are placed where they are by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not without a purpose. Picture, if you will, in America in the early 80s, just as the internet was being created in 1983, a time when the young Shia professionals were struggling to climb the corporate ladder while striving to raise children in a new environment. Remarkably, despite meager resources, they had also begun to re-establish modest centers to commemorate the Azza of Abu Abdullah and establish Sunday schools across North America. And some of those pioneers, like Dr. Manzoor Rizvi, Dr. Asad Sadiq, Brother Shaukat Jafri, Dr. Aftab, Dr. Musa Jafri, Brother Jafar Naqvi, Sultan Karamali, to mention but a few, some of them are on this panel today, will all bear me out that those were the nascent days of our community as we know it today. So, to the younger generation today, I say that you had the benefit of climbing over the shoulders of those pioneers, the stalwarts of this community, to be where you are today and where we are today as a community. A fact that must never be forgotten as we build the community of tomorrow. So it was in those days, along comes a 43-year-old scholar in the prime of his life, invited by the pioneering Muslim Foundation in New Jersey, and thus began an illustrious career of tabligh by this young alim, born in a family of ulama. Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi migrated from India to Pakistan with his father, Hujjatul Islam Maulana Syed Izharul Hasnain Rizvi. He was educated at Sultanul Madaris in Khairpur and Jamia Imamia in Lahore, attaining a degree from Punjab University in linguistics and a master's in Arabic language from the Sindh University. Soon, Maulana Tilmiz Sahib, as he was fondly known to one and all, became an impactful, yet an unassuming muballigh, and even offered his services to the newly established Hawza in Madinah. Over the years, it was in New Jersey that he found his home, where he established one of the most extensive libraries in North America, housing vast literature on the school of Hadith. Gracing the shelf of his library are his own books, over 20 titles, for example, in a bridge Urdu translation of Tafsir as-Safi of Mullah Faid Kashani, giving access to the Urdu-speaking world. Amongst his other many remarkable publications are the translation of the Diwan of Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, peace be upon him, as well as Allama Iqbal's Iqbal Barga Ismatul Taharat Mein, a commentary on the verses of Allama Iqbal on the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. In his last years, he had just completed the Urdu translation of the Quran based on the word-by-word format, indeed remarkably without losing the flow of the letter. We will soon hear how in so many ways he touched us all. For me, what remains etched in my memory is his humility and his affable nature. He was genuinely empathetic and looked you in the eye with a charismatic smile, putting you at ease when he conversed with you. The kindness and the love oozing from his persona was indeed hard to forget. In him, we have lost a great scholar and above all, an affectionate human being who was a guiding light of the then nascent community and continued to be the guiding light until his last days. Indeed, as I say, he was the right man at the right time and continued to inspire the young and old, belonging to 3 generations in what makes up our Shia community today. We pray to Allah to accept his noble deeds and shower his blessings upon him. Through his son, Sayyid Rizwan and Sayyid Nadeem, who will be offering concluding reflections at the end of this program, I offer my personal condolences and condolences on behalf of all our viewers to his family. May Allah give us the tawfiq to keep the steadfast on the noble path that the deceased taught us, so that we may continue with this sublime mission. Today, we have numerous esteemed guests on this forum organized by the Ahlul Bayt Media, and I would like to offer an apology at the outset. The intros of the speakers will be very succinct, far from how they should really be introduced, but time does not permit me the luxury of providing full introductions. Also, all the presenters have been requested by the organizers to keep their comments and reflections to about 3 minutes to allow a timely completion of this program. So without further ado, allow me to invite, I cannot see the screen, but if Dr. Musa Jafri is here, I would like to invite him to come and speak.
Hasnain bhai, you did very well. God bless you.
Hasnain bhai, are we starting with Hassan? So
I thought we had Hassan, that he was not here on time, but
no, he's here. He's here.
certainly. Okay, let us invite Zegam Hassan, a long-time resident of New Jersey, and indeed a Sunday school student of Maulana Tilmiz Syed, and an active member of Anjuman-e Naujawan Ali Akbar. Hassan, please, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you for letting me part of this memorial, and not worthy of to be here among all the esteemed guests and honorees, but I was asked by Mustafa to be part of this. Very short, I've known Tilmiz uncle, to us as Tilmiz uncle, for a very long time, since '84 when I moved here from Pakistan, about close to 35-40 years ago. He was also moved here, and we got to know him through Mehfil Shah Khurasan Sunday School. He was my teacher, and I was blessed to be part of his class and learned a lot from him. It's a great loss for the community, and my condolences to the entire family. Very short, I was asked to recite something about Imam Hussain. Char misre Imam Hussain ki ek buland tareen salawat. Allahumma salli.
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Before you start, may I request everyone to please mute their mics except for the speaker? We will appreciate that. Thank you. Bismillah.
اپنے دکھوں میں آیا جو شبیر کا خیال، اپنے دکھوں میں آیا جو شبیر کا خیال، شکوہ بدل کے شکر میں تبدیل ہو گیا، ہر غم کربلا نے سہارا دیا ہمیں، ہر غم کربلا نے سہارا دیا ہمیں، ہر غم حسین میں تحلیل ہو گیا، اپنے دکھوں میں آیا جو شبیر کا خیال، اے زینب دلگیر سلام آخری میرا، ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا اے زینب دلگیر سلام آخری میرا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا کوئی نہ رہا عالم غربت میں ہمارا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا اے زینب دلگیر سلام آخری میرا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا اب اونو محمد ہے نہ عباس دلاور قاسم ہے نہ اکبر نہ کوئی مونی سویاور کیا گزرے گی سجاد پہ جس وقت کہوں گا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا اے زینب دلگیر سلام آخری میرا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا احساس یتیمی ہی اسے جینے نہ دے گا میں جانتا ہوں اس پہ ستم ڈھائیں گے آدھا تم میری سکینہ کو تماچوں سے بچانا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا اے زینب دلگیر سلام آخری میرا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا پانی پہ میری فاتحہ دلوائی و ہمشیر کرتا ہے وصیت یہ تمہیں بے کس و دلگیر تم شب کی نمازوں میں ہمیں بھول نہ جانا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا اے زینب دلگیر سلام آخری میرا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا کوئی نہ رہا عالم غربت میں ہمارا ہم جاتے ہیں بہنا اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsan, Jazakallah. Thank you for that very soulful recitation. We appreciate it. As we begin the reflections from our leaders, from our scholars, and the Mu'mineen of this community, it's my pleasure and I'm humbled to introduce Dr. Syed Musa Jafri, an eminent medical practitioner in the central New Jersey area and a leader who has served our community for over 4 decades. He's a patron of Bait Wali Asr, a center which has served the community continuously since 1989. I invite Dr. Musa Jafri to share his reflections with us today. Dr. Jafri, please. I thought we had him. He might have dropped off.
Now.
Okay. I'm afraid we have a very tight schedule, and if people are not here at the time allocated, then we may have a problem. Let me see who else is on this. This is, okay. I see Shaukat Jafri, Aga Shaukat Jafri. So allow me to introduce him, and we'll go back to Dr. Musa Jafri when he's here. Dr. Jafri, Brother Shaukat Jafri is a man who hardly needs any introduction, a senior executive at the Health and Human Services Until his recent retirement, he is now a public health advisor at the United Nations, a passionate activist and a blogger under the pen name of It's My Turn. He has been a formidable North American Shia leader and a founding director of OMA. Shogat Bhai, the floor is yours, please. It appears that as soon as I introduce people, they disappear from the screen. So I will move on.
So his phone, I think his phone is muted or something.
Shogat Bhai, can you please unmute?
I don't know.
Bismillah. Bismillah, we hear you now. Go
We
ahead.
got it, we got it.
I am very fortunate enough to be one of the companion. I want to say stand for, I would say, without any exaggeration, about 65 years. After we migrated from Hyderabad, Deccan to Pakistan, my father was appointed in the municipal services at in Khairpur. We moved to Khairpur. I was hardly 7-year-old or something like that. And Maulana, his family was living in Khairpur. Maulana Hasnain, who used to recite majlis in Khairpur, he will come to Imam Barga 1 year. He got sick, and that was the day the community in Khairpur decided. Khairpur was a state of Khairpur in Pakistan. People who in Pakistan know very well Khairpur. So he was anointed at that time to take over at the center, and that started. Hardly he was 18 when his career started in as a muballigh, as a speaker. Then fast forward, we moved to Hyderabad, Sindh. This is not Hyderabad, Deccan, Hyderabad, Sindh, another place where my father moved. And coincidence, Maulana's family also moved from Khairpur to Hyderabad, Sindh. He went to Maulana Samar Hussain Sahab. Again, people who know Hyderabad, Sindh, there was a Hausa Ilmiya, Maulana Samar Hussain Sahab, and that's where he got educated. Maulana Tilmiz. He was a teacher, but simultaneously, while he was doing his master's in Arabic and Farsi, as you elaborated, he got his education, religious education, at that Hausa Ilmiya, Khadamgah Maulari, they used to call it. And then again, fast forward, 68, I migrated to the United States. I came as a student here in the US, Michigan. And I was going through, then after finishing my school in Michigan, I came to New York, moved to New York. And while I was in New York, I used to frequent, the Hui Center in Queens Boulevard, was established in 1979. In 84, if to the best of my recollection, we get a telephone call. I got a telephone call from the executive committee of the Al-Hui, the old Al-Hui Center. Mahmoud Syed, Amjad Java, Anjum Raza, Kausar Rizvi, Ejaz Malik. They called, they said to me, do you know this young Maulana from Pakistan? We have been hearing Qalbi Sadiq, we want to make a change. So they invited him, and they said that, I said, of course, he's my childhood friend. And how can I? So Maulana joined came to New York and really became part of this community in the New York City. That's where everybody was at the time. I know this much, that after a few years of reciting majalises in the New York area, he moved to New Jersey, and my recollections are correct, Dr. Manzoor Rizvi, who's his first cousin, got him involved into Payam Aman, and they established an office along with Asghar Rizvi, the late Asghar Rizvi, who was another icon in our pioneer Shia generation. And they settled down in Jersey, and his commitment to the Payam Aman for a few years. And then Maulana moved to further to Hasnain Zahra and some other center where he provided services. Maulana was a formidable presence in the community. I knew him all these years. The man was humble, as Hasnain Bhai pointed out repeatedly, unbelievably unassuming, tremendous knowledge. And on his persistence, I visited his library. Al-Hui Center has one of the best library. And when I saw Maulana's library, I told him as to how great that library was. Maulana did all the research work over there. So and through the course of later years, we were close to Maulana. I cannot dwell into, my time is limited. I am so grateful to have his company for so many years, and I pray for his maghfirah. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah. Thank you so much, Shogat Bhai. I do believe that Dr. Musa Jafri is present with us. Dr. Saib, we already introduced you before you went into Gaiba. So now that you're back, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
It's a very sad occasion that we are meeting to commemorate the life and accomplishments of Maulana Tilmiz. I have known Maulana Tilmiz for more than 30 years. He was associated with our Madrasa at Imam Zamana Foundation for several years. He used to teach Arabic and Quran with very successful outcomes. Maulana, as you mentioned before, Maulana, apart from being a great scholar and alim, the more important thing was his human nature. He was a very kind and affectionate gentleman. And one of the outstanding qualities which had left a great impression on me was, as the hadith says, the relationship of sabr to iman is that of a head to a body. I vividly remember when his young son Marhoom, Syed Rizvi, passed away, Maulana Tilmiz showed utmost sabr to the highest degree, which is a true reflection of the sabr of our holy Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. It was the month of Ramadan. He conducted the Ramadan, although he had just lost his beloved son. He conducted the Ramadan program that evening in spite of his great loss. This shows his level of sabr as well as commitment to his work, and we have all admired that for a long time. And with this few words, I'm sure other people have their own perceptions of how they come across his life. So with these few words, I want to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him the highest position in Jannah, in the proximity of Holy Ahlul Bayt, and grant his family the sabr jameel to bear this great loss.
Ilahi
Please
Ameen.
recite a Fatiha for his departed soul.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Asant, Jazakallah, Dr. Saib, truly the dimension of sabr that you pointed out is the mark of a moment. And Maulana Saib not only taught us, but he practiced it too. Next up, I'm humbled to present Dr. Aftab Hussain, a urology specialist with over 45 years of experience in his field. But beyond that, he's an evergreen leader with a quiet and an unassuming yet determined demeanor. Dr. Aftab has previously served as the Vice President and the President of the Executive Committee of MFI. Dr. Saib, the floor is yours, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullah.
35 साल की रफ़ाक़त को चंद लम्हों में बयान करना बड़ा मुश्किल है। पहली मुलाकात मौलाना से महफ़िल शाह खुरासान में हुई, जब उन्होंने एक मजलिस पढ़ी जिसमें मौला अली के फ़ज़ाइल बयान किए, और मैं बहुत इम्प्रेस हुआ और उनसे मिला। बस उस दिन से लेके आखिर वक्त तक जो है कुछ ऐसी मोहब्बत रही कि वो हमारे बग़ैर और हम उनके बग़ैर नहीं रहते थे। हर हफ्ते उनका फ़ोन आना, खैरियत मालूम करना और अपनी किताबों के बारे में ज़िक्र करना, ये मामूल था। मौलाना की रहलत के बाद एक ऐसी खला और एक ऐसा सन्नाटा है कि जिसको भरना बड़ा मुश्किल है। लास्ट यानी वेंसडे को जब मिलने के लिए मैं गया तो मौलाना अच्छी हालत में थे, किताबों के बारे में बताया कि कौन कौन सी आने वाली है, और सैटरडे यानी वेंसडे को मुलाकात हुई और सैटरडे को आईसीयू में देखा कि उनके मल्टीपल सिस्टम फेलियर, और फिर पता चला कि میت جو ہے اتوار کے دن سنڈے کے دن مسجد علی میں آ گئی. تو یہ شعر میں آپ کے سامنے پڑھ رہا ہوں کہ نہ ہاتھ تھام سکے نہ پکڑ سکے دامن، نہ ہاتھ تھام سکے نہ پکڑ سکے دامن، بڑے قریب سے اٹھ کر چلا گیا کوئی، بڑے قریب سے اٹھ کر چلا گیا کوئی. مولا علی کا قول ہے کہ جب تک دنیا میں رہو لوگ تم سے ملنے کے خواہش مند ہوں، اور جب چلے جاؤ تو تم کو یاد کریں. مولانا اس پہ بالکل پورے اترتے تھے. اور موت اس کی ہے کرے جس کا زمانہ افسوس، موت اس کی ہے کرے جس کا زمانہ افسوس، ورنہ دنیا میں سبھی آتے ہیں مرنے کے لیے، ورنہ دنیا میں سبھی آتے ہیں مرنے کے لیے. مولانا ایک ہماری فیملی کے ایک فرد تھے. جب وہ محفل شاہ خراسان میں جیسے شوکت بھائی نے پوائنٹ آؤٹ کیا تو رہتے کوئنس میں تھے، وہاں سے ٹرین سے اور اس کے بعد پھر بس سے خراسان آتے تھے، اور بڑا مشکل راستہ تھا. ان دنوں میں ان کو انگلش بھی نہیں آتی تھی بالکل. تو میں نے اور اقبال جعفری نے مل کر ایڈیسن میں اوکٹری روڈ پہ ان کے لیے ایک اپارٹمنٹ کا انتظام کیا، اور انہی کے اپارٹمنٹ میں نماز جمعہ اور شب جمعہ کا پروگرام شروع ہوا. انہوں نے ہمیں ہمارے بچوں کو قرآن پڑھایا، ہر خوشی میں ہر غم میں وہ ہمارے ساتھ رہے. سارے بچوں کا نکاح انہوں نے پڑھایا. اور بہت سے دفعہ جیسے کہتے ہیں کہ لوگ کسی کو اگر آزمانا ہو تو اس کے ساتھ سفر کر کے دیکھو. میں نے مولانا کے ساتھ متعدد سفر کیے، کبھی حج پہ، کبھی عمرہ پہ، کبھی زیارتوں پہ، اور بڑا اچھا ان کے ساتھ رہتا تھا، اس لیے کہ بڑے خوش اخلاق، بڑے محبت کے، بالکل ڈاؤن ٹو ارتھ. کوئی ایسا نہیں لگتا تھا کہ جیسے بہت بڑے علامہ کوئی ہوتے ہیں کیا نام ہے بہت لیے دیے ہوئے، ایسی کوئی بات نہیں تھی. خوش لباس، اچھا کھانا کھانا، اچھی چیزیں بائی کرنا، ہر جگہ سے کتابیں کیا نام لینا اپنے لیے، اور ہمیشہ آئس کریم کھلانا سب لوگوں کو. بہرحال ان کی جو ہے وہ نہ صرف یہ کہ امریکہ میں جو ہماری فیملی ہے، بلکہ میرے وطن سرسی میں بھی بچہ ان کو جانتا ہے. آخری نکاح میری بیٹی کا مکہ معظمہ میں انہوں نے پڑھایا، اور اس کے بعد میری والدہ کا 40واں سرسی میں ہوا، وہاں پہ بھی سب لوگ جانتے ہیں ان کو. اور علی گڑھ میں بھی جو میری فیملی ہے وہ ہر سال وہاں جاتے تھے. بلکہ ایک بچی نے یہ کہا کہ ہم نے نہ اپنے نانا کو دیکھا نہ دادا کو دیکھا، ہم نے تو مولانا تلمیذ صاحب کو دیکھا کہ ایک بزرگ کیسا ہوتا ہے. آخر میں 2-3 شعر پیش کر رہا ہوں کہ پیام اعظمی صاحب کا کلام ہے کہ سید بے کس کے غم خاروں کو موت آتی نہیں، سید بے کس کے غم خاروں کو موت آتی نہیں، عابد مستر کے بیماروں کو موت آتی نہیں، تھپکیاں دے کر سلا دیتی ہے رحمت قبر میں، نیند آتی ہے عزاداروں کو موت آتی نہیں. ہر زخم خود سکون کی تصویر بن گیا، ہر درد چارہ سازی تقدیر بن گیا، مومن کو آزما نہ سکے حادثات دہر، جو غم پڑا وہی غم شبیر بن گیا. کون کہتا ہے کہ انسان کا انجام ہے موت، دوستو خالق کونین کا انعام ہے موت، عمر فانی ہے سلگتا ہوا دن شام ہے موت، یعنی پھر ایک نئی صبح کا پیغام ہے موت. جب تھکا دیتی ہے انسان کو عدالت اس کی، تھپکیاں دے کے سلا دیتی ہے رحمت اس کی. موت اے موت حقاق گاہوں کا مقصود ہے تو، یورش غم سے ہے تسکین کے موجود ہے تو، میری نظروں میں نہ ظالم ہے نہ مردود ہے تو، زندگی ہی کی طرح عطیہ معبود ہے تو، ذائقہ شہد شیری ہے زیادہ تیرا، پیکرے حسن بدن پر ہے لبادہ تیرا. آخری شعر ہے کہ موت آتی ہے زر و مال کے بیماروں کو، موت آتی ہے ذلیلوں کو ستمگاروں کو، موت آتی ہے سیاست کے نمک خواروں کو، موت آ جاتی ہے بیعت کے طلبگاروں کو، صاحب جذبہ بیدار نہیں مر سکتا، صاحب جذبہ بیدار نہیں مر سکتا، جسم کی موت سے کردار نہیں مر سکتا، جسم کی موت سے کردار نہیں مر سکتا. شکریہ.
سبحان اللہ، سبحان اللہ،
سبحان اللہ، سبحان اللہ. بے شک کردار سے موت نہیں مر سکتا. Jazakallah, Dr. Saib, bahut khub. We now move on to Firoz Naqvi, who is an active community volunteer, an educator, and a board member of the Ahlul Bayt Foundation, also Astana Zera and a principal of the Ahlul Bayt School. Can we please roll the video?
Back in the 1980s, we were about 15 families with children living in, with young children living in central New Jersey. Our biggest concern at that time was how to provide Islamic education to our children who were living and growing in the American society. My father, Marhoom Mir Muhammad Ali Khan Naqvi Sahab, took the initiative for establishing a weekend Islamic school that was named Ahlul Bayt School. At first, the classes were taught by some of the parents, but we soon realized that we needed assistance and guidance from an alim, especially in the Sharia matters. Of course, at that time, there were not many available in New Jersey. We prayed to Allah for help, and Alhamdulillah, Allah answered our help in the form of Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi Sahab. Although he was teaching graduate and postgraduate students back in his country, he was happy to teach the youngsters at Ahlul Bayt School. His passion for teaching and his love for the children can be seen through his dedication and demeanor. Maulana Sahab used to take a bus every weekend to Freehold so he can be available to teach our children. Rain, sun or shine, he was a fixture at Ahlul Bayt School. And the children loved him. He was their best teacher, no matter how hard he made them work. Furthermore, he made several contributions in improvising our syllabus and our teaching methods, which our children use today. Maulana Sahib has made many contributions to the Shia community in New Jersey and at US. Whether this is in the form of the books that he wrote and published, or the wonderful words he spoke from the mimbar, or the du'as that he genuinely made for us. Maulana Sahib has left behind a wonderful family of children and grandchildren to continue his legacy. However, I cannot help but think that the biggest contribution to the Shia community might have been his influence over the youth whose religious beliefs and practices have been shaped and inspired by Maulana Sahab, and the positive effect it will have for generations to come. If you visit any Imam Baragah in New Jersey and look at the 20 years to 50 years old in the audience, there's a good chance that at some point they were taught, guided, encouraged, and inspired by Maulana Sahab. On behalf of myself, the staff, students, and parents of Ahlul Bayt School, Maulana Sahab, I thank you for being there when we needed you most. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I pray to Allah to grant Maulana Sahab Rahmah. I pray to Allah that you include him with the Masumeen, the Iliyin, the Salihin, the Sabirin, and the Musallin. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Please recite Surah Fatiha. Maulana Tilmiz Hasnain Sahab. Allahumma salli.
Jazakallah, we thank Firoz Naqvi Sahib for that very illustrative reflection, talking about the early days. And as I said before, a major reformative and transformative force in a nascent community, and has been influential in changing the lives and minds of many. Next up, I'd like to invite one of the students of Maulana Tilmiz Sahib, and that is Fatima Abdi. She works as a research analyst in the healthcare compliance industry, graduate of the Rutgers School of Public Health with a master in MPH. Fatima was also appointed on the advisory board of health for her hometown, the Monroe Township, and she has lived in central New Jersey for most of her life and has been involved in the New Jersey Shia community. So let us hear her reflections as a student and somebody who was nurtured through the care and nurturing by Maulana Syed. Please, Sister Fatima, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Firstly, I want to begin by offering my condolences to all of Marhoom's loved ones, in particular his family, his wife, his sons and daughters, Iram Baji, Tabasum Baji, Uzma Baji, many grandchildren, including his eldest grandchild, Alisa, and all extended family. The entire central New Jersey community lost a beacon of knowledge on September 26th. It is because of Maulana Tilmiz's hard work that we are blessed to have such a close-knit and loving community that I was privileged to witness the growth of. I had the blessing of being Marhoom's student for many years at the Ahlul School at Hasnain Zahra. His passion for our faith was manifest in his words when he would advise us young students to strongly adhere to the Quran. From a young age, my parents instilled in me the love for the Ahlul Bayt, accompanied with the love for the Holy Book and prayer. This love is like no other, and we were blessed with Maulana Tilmiz to guide us as an embodiment of the love for the Masumeen, echoed through his majalis and weekly Jummah khutbahs. I am blessed to be one of the children of the Hasnain Zahra community, where I witnessed Marhoom lead the community through its formative years. He was a beacon of guidance and comfort to everyone in the community, whether they had newly immigrated to the country or they were well settled in need of any source of support. My father used to tell me about the early days of when he came to America. He was studying in university in 1989. Maulana would always welcome him with open arms to his home to pray namaz, would offer chai and snacks at every single occasion. His kindness and good character was unparalleled and evident in the way he raised his children and grandchildren, steady on the path of the Ahlul Bayt for years to come. Marhoom's unwavering support for this community's elders and young ones alike was unmatched. My peers and I will forever be grateful for the guidance he provided us. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah, Fatima, for those
Fatima, well said. Thank you.
Very sincere and candid words. Truly a transformative figure over generations, as has been mentioned before. Next up, I'd like to invite a long-standing leader wearing so many hats that I lose count as to how many presidentships he currently holds or has held in the past. He's been on the board of directors of the Universal Muslim Association of America since its inception in 2002. Currently, he's a senior vice president at UMA. He's also the US liaison for Tanzimul Makadib of Lucknow, and is also one of the founding trustees of the Sadiq School and serves as its chairman. So I invite my dear friend, Dr. Asad Sadiq, to present his reflections. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Hassan Bhai, thank you so much. Thank you very much. I do not deserve the accolade that you bestow, but this is your kindness, alhamdulillah. This is a very painful moment for all of us here in New Jersey and all entire North American Shia community. Maulana Tilmiz was not just an alim, he was not just a faqih, but he was a kind-hearted, warm, and affectionate person who radiated so much love to the people that he came across, that you had no choice but just simply sit and open your heart out to him. And he would welcome your comments. He would welcome your welcome your feelings. Every time I would simply wonder, he would call me every single week, and he would so longingly say that आपकी दर्शन किए बहुत अरसा हुआ, कहाँ हैं आप, आइए. I would go and knock at the door and just simply sit and find him writing books, find him doing translations, find him doing work constantly, and he would say, सुबह से बैठा हूँ और काम कर रहा हूँ, ये देखिए ये काम कर रहा हूँ. And then he would ask, we would have tea, we would have snacks. I traveled with him so many places, so many times, and he's the single most person, alim, who I found, who would always buy you chai, who would always buy you ice cream, who would always offer to buy dinner, host dinner for a group of 10, 15 people. He was so generous. He was so loving. He was so, and the last time I saw him, like just Aftab said, Aftab saw him on a Wednesday, and I was there on the Tuesday, a day before that. And I spent about 2, 3 hours sitting by his bedside in the hospital. And we had such nice conversation. And he talked about what book he was writing. And then he said, when I finish this book, I'm going to give it to you. I want you to sponsor, make sure you get it published. And we talked about the condition of the community, the condition of our youth. The best thing about him is that he taught fiqh and Arabic to children of kindergarten with as much interest as he taught to a PhD student. He has students like Najam, who is on this panel today, to whom he taught Arabic and fiqh, and he had students like my children. He would come every Wednesday to my house. My wife would make dinner. We'll have dinner. We'll do Maghrib namaz first. We'll have dinner. Then he will teach my children for about an hour, Quran and Arabic, and then we would go to Baitul Khaim. So we would have an Arabic and Quranic class in Baitul Khaim every Wednesday. This went on for almost about 10 to 15 years. And every time that I would see him, there was never a complaint. And like Feroz just mentioned, that he would take a bus to come to Astana. So he would go through all these difficulties. He lived in a townhouse that was owned by Dr. Ghazamfar in Princeton Junction. And then we would just simply go to his house without any hindrance, without any takalluf, and then knock at the door, and his door will always be open for all of us. It will always be open for all of us. I have traveled with him so many places, and I learned so much from him, and his patience, his sabr, and the smile on his face, the radiating smile on his face will never leave you. And you know, the one share that comes to mind is Zindagi kya hai anasir mein zahur tartib, maut kya hai inni ajza ka parishan hona. And that's exactly what has happened to Maulana Tilmiz. He has not gone away. He has not died, as many shura and Aftab just mentioned in his kalam, how maut is nothing but sleep. So I feel that Maulana is still with us in spirit. I feel that Maulana is still guiding us. I feel that Maulana is still smilingly embracing all of us. So we pray for him. May Allah elevate his darajat. And we just ask Allah to give us sabr to bear this huge vacuum, to bear this huge loss. We have lost a treasure. We have lost a treasure that never boasted himself of his knowledge. He never bragged about about the books that he has written. He never bragged about what his accomplishments, but he was so simple in his attitude. May Allah give him ajr azim, inshallah, and give everybody else sabr, inshallah. Thank you very much, Hasnain bhai. Thank you, Mustafa, for giving me the opportunity.
I mean, thank you.
Jazakallah. Thank you, Dr. Saib, for those words from the heart. Indeed, the man's integrity actually shows that when everyone so far has described his unassuming manner, his friendly disposition, and his generosity, and each of the speakers so far have reflected the same sentiments, it shows the integrity of a person, that he is the same whoever he is facing. Indeed, this was a man of integrity. Next up, I'd like to invite Brother Sarfaraz Naqvi, an engineer by profession. He is the chairman of the board of Ahlul Bayt Foundation and a director of Astana Azera. Sarfaraz Sahib, please, the floor is yours. Please unmute yourself. You are muted.
Is this okay?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you.
Salamun alaikum, my
Alaikum
dear
salam.
brothers and sisters. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I was asked to speak a few words about Marhoom Hujjatul Islam Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi Sahab in this memoriam of a great, kind, humble, and a gentle human being who dedicated his life in trying to improve our lives through his depth of knowledge of the Holy Quran and the teachings of our Ahlul Bayt. To me, Maulana Sahab has been a mentor, an advisor, a friend in need, whose association with me and my family dates back to the mid-1980s. He was instrumental in starting Shab-e Juma program in our homes in 1985 among the families that were settling in the Central Jersey area, which to date has continued and transitioned to Astana-e-Zehra and blossomed under his blessings and guidance. His knowledge in jurisprudence was such that when you called him with a question, his answer was instant. It was not put off for a callback later. His passing away has left me, along with our entire community, without a trusted and a much-loved human being who put his community commitments above everything else, by which I mean the day when his beloved son, Marhoom Syed Shahid Rizvi, passed away in the month of Ramadan, and we visited his house to pay our condolences. Maulana Sahab turned to me and said, "I'll be coming to Astana-e-Zehra to conduct the Maghrib and Salat." While he was in a state of mourning, and we all requested Maulana Sahab, you can excuse yourself, but he insisted, "No, this is my duty and I'll be there." That in itself showed the world what a great caliber of a human being he was. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him an exalted abode in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. I thank the organizers of Ahlul Bayt and Muslim for Peace for giving me this opportunity to join this memorial in honor of Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi Sahab. Thank you.
Jazakallah, thank you for those heart-rending words. We'll now hear from another one of the students who is now himself a formidable academic, Najam Haider. He's a professor at the Department of Religion at the Barnard College with a PhD from Princeton University and an MPhil from the Oxford University. Professor Haider's research includes early Islamic history, the methodology and the development of Islamic law, and he has authored a couple of books, The Origins of the Shia and Shi Islam, published by the Cambridge University. Professor Syed, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Alaikum assalam.
And I guess I will speak a little differently about Maulana Tilmiz because I think my experience is very much the experience of many people my age in this community. The first time I met Maulana Tilmiz, as we called him, I was just a little kid. So he was my first teacher. He used to teach us, we would chant Islamic terms together in summer schools, and he was sort of a constant figure who existed there. I have very fond memories of very awkward conversations that he would have with children in order to teach them about Islam. And so that's really what I thought about him. He was just a figure who was always there, who was always present, especially for children. I mean, I couldn't imagine Sunday school without Maulana Tilmiz. And he just, every Muharram, every single occasion that we had, he would be present. And so when you have a figure like that, you think of them as your teacher. And as you grow up, you start almost dismissing them. You know, that was the teacher, that was the person who taught me and when I was a child. But with Maulana Tilmiz, I had a very interesting transformation. I remember very distinctly this moment when I was in Damascus learning for 1 year. I was in Syria. And I was going on a little bus throughout Damascus. And on the corner of my eye, on the street, I saw someone who looked exactly like Maulana Tilmiz. So I had the bus pull over and I went running, and there he was. In the middle of nowhere, unexpected. And I asked him why he was there and what he was doing. And he said that he had led a group for ziyarah, and then he had sort of left them behind for a day, and he was in Damascus looking for books. So he was he was building his library. And it really, I mean, I was shocked that I recognized him. I was shocked that he was there. And I was just shocked to see the side of him because I had not thought of him as a scholar. I had thought of him as my teacher when I was a child. And as time went on, I saw more and more layers of this. When I went to graduate school, one of my teachers was a mujtahid who had spent 18 years learning in Iran and had reached that status. And the first thing he asked me when we met, after he found out I grew up in New Jersey, was, do you know Maulana Tilmiz? And I was shocked by this. And he said, yes, that man has an amazing library. You should go visit it. And he explained how both of his sons had been taught Quran by Maulana Tilmiz. And that really began a transformation in my mind from Maulana Tilmiz as a teacher of children to him as a scholar. And as I got to know him more and more, and as I visited his library, and I probably should have visited it more, I gained a greater appreciation for him as a scholar because he truly was a scholar. I mean, I've had multiple conversations with him in cars when I was driving him once, where we would just talk, and the way that he was able to explain things and the conversations that we had, I always left it knowing a little bit more. And it was very eye-opening to see this in my own mind, this transformation of him, this realization that he had so many more layers as a teacher and a scholar than I had initially seen, to the point where I can say that I know of at least 2 graduate students who were with me in graduate school who would have personal classes with Maulana Tilmiz. They would go to his house and read a text together. I mean, so he was formidable. He was a real scholar. I don't think I don't think many in our community understood the level of knowledge that he had. And so what he became for me was one of the few people I could hear in Marhoom give a majlis or in Ramadan where I learned something every time. Like, he had a knack for taking information and knowledge that he had and transforming it in a way that to make it digestible to everyone. And that's a real skill for someone to possess. I mean, I think the last thing I will say is that the skills that you need as a scholar are so different from the skills you need as an alim for a community, you know, to help build a community, as an anchor of a community. Maulana Tilmiz was that rare person who could do both. Like, he was both a scholar, but oftentimes scholars don't understand what it means to have a role as an anchor for a community. But Maulana Tilmiz was that anchor. He had that empathy, that kindness, but he was also a scholar, and he lived both of these lives together in a seamless way. It's something you almost never see. And so that, I think, is what made him truly, truly unique. And I will pass along that when I shared this with my old teacher about the passing of Maulana Tilmiz, he said, and these were his exact words, he was incredibly kind, he was an amazing scholar, and he was a mu'min. And I think that those are the 3 things that strike very, very directly in me when I think of him. And he will truly, I think, be missed, not only in this community, but by very specific individuals. I mean, it's such a loss. I feel such a loss with it. And but I also think we should celebrate his life, because he was a really incredible person that helped build this community in a very distinct way. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Truly, you're an example of the generational impact Maulana Tilmiz had over 3 generations. And inshallah, his work continues through the scholarship of professors like you and others to be able to continue our journey in these lands. Next up, we have a formidable academic again, Dr. Hassan Abbas, a distinguished professor of international relations at the National Defense University. He also serves as a senior advisor at the Project on Shiism and Global Affairs at the Harvard University, and a regular analyst for various leading international newspapers and academic publications. He recently authored the acclaimed book, Imam Ali, the Prophet's Heir. And this is a presentation on the phone by Professor Hassan Abbas. Please, the floor is yours. Do we have Hassan Abbas on?
He's there. I can see him, but he's muted. So we can take Sheikh Father Salani. I guess he has to go.
Indeed, if Sheikh Salani would like to go next, we will be honored to have him. So Sheikh Salani is the director of the Imam Al-Khui Foundation in New York and a representative and a close confidant of Ayatollah Sistani. May Allah keep him. Sheikh Salani is one of the most senior alims serving our community here, and he has provided, amongst many other things, the all-important link between the North American Shia community and the Islamic seminaries in Najaf and Qom for the past 30 years. We are honored and blessed to have him in our community. And Sheikhna, the floor is yours, please. You need to unmute yourself. There we go. We can hear you now. Thank you, Sheikh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي لا يحمد على مكروه سواه والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلقه المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين ومن اتبعوهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال تعالى في محكم كتابه العزيز بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين تتوفاهم الملائكة طيبين يقولون سلام عليكم ادخلوا الجنة بما كنتم تعملون صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
I really feel very sad and sorry that we are doing the Majlis Fatiha for Maulana on internet and not in person. I'm very sad for that. He deserves from us to be present wherever the Majlis is there, but unfortunately, because of the COVID and because of many other restrictions, we are forced to commemorate his wafat in this way. In the meantime, I would like to thank Dr. Brother Hasnain and Brother Mustafa for allowing me to be with you in this occasion. The ayah which I recite, الَّذِينَ تَتَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ طَيِّبِينَ, those whom the angel take their soul while they are طيبين. طيبين in Arabic, it's mean clean, nice, clean spirit they have. Then the angel will tell them, Salamun alaykum, peace be upon you. Come, enter the paradise because what you used to do. And I have kind of confidence that Maulana Tilmiz al-Hasnain, may Allah bless his soul, is one of those whom the angel will come and say salam to him and give him a bishara, good news, that he is among those who will be in the paradise. I believe that for many reasons. One reason is what we heard from his student just now. Many of them, they say that they have been guided to the proper way, to the proper path, to the right path, because of Maulana Syed Tilmiz al-Hasnain. And according to that, and according to what Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam said to Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, Ya Ali, لئن هدى الله بك امرئا واحدا أحب إليك مما طلعت عليه الشمس. Oh Ali, if Allah give a guidance to one person by you or through you, that will be better for you than anything on the earth. And I'm sure that a lot of our people has been guided to the right path because Maulana Tilmiz al-Hasnain. So that is a bushra, that is a good news for him, for us also, that we are not losing him for nothing, but we are saying goodbye for him to better place and better position. Maulana Tilmiz al-Hasnain, I know him from Karachi. I was in Karachi and with Maulana Rizvi Ja'far, and I met with him in the mosque of Maulana Rizvi Ja'far in Karachi. And from that time, we have a communication when we came to United States and he came here. And really, what I noticed from him, humbleness, knowledge, service, kindness, all these definitely will lead us to believe that he is one among those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them with the paradise. He is one of the board of trustees of Majlis Ulama al-Muslimin al-Shia, the scholar of the Shia Muslim, the council of the Shia Muslim scholar. He is one of the board of trustees. And in each meeting, he tries his level best to correct and to suggest and to do the right things to serve our community, our Muslim community in general, our Shia community in particular in United States. Again, I feel great loss for our community, for our scholar, to lose Maulana Tilmiz al-Hasnain. May Allah bless his soul. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the paradise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us, his family, our community, more patience. And let us remember him with Surah Al-Fatiha.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Sheikhna, thank you very much for those very profound words. And indeed, your insightful observation on his character, which has been shared by the previous speakers. Thank you, Sheikhna, once again. Jazakallah. Next up, we would like to invite Professor Hassan Abbas to have his reflection. Professor Hassan Abbas.
Ji, thank you very much. I'm truly honored by the introduction and truly honored to be able to say a few words about Maulana Tilmiz. I'm sorry you had called on me, Dr. Walji, earlier. Somehow the system was not getting unmuted. It's relevant to share the anecdote where I am right now. I just landed in the city of Konya in Turkey, standing right in front of the shrine of Maulana Marhoom. And I was talking about this trip with Maulana about 2 weeks ago. And he said, Hassan, we had to go together. And I said, yes, Maulana, we will inshallah go together. And I'm remembering my last conversation with him when he was in hospital. And I said to him that, Maulana, I know you are away from your study table and you're away from your pen and your paper, but this is a time that maybe you can think about, make some draft ideas or make some sketches about your next books. And he said almost, I have already sketched 4 next books, So what I want to start with is very briefly, this was his amazing energy and his commitment and dedication to the cause of Ahlul Bayt, which I find no parallel whenever I think about any other scholar that I've known. He was continuously thinking of his next project. He was continuously thinking of what is missing in the so many narratives that needs to be talked about and that needs to be covered. I was especially, I would say, extremely lucky in my association and relationship with him as myself as a student of him for the last 20 years. But my relationship in the last 2 or 3 years, I should say 2 or 3 years was, last 2-3 years was like talking to him every week once at least. But even before that, he was always accessible, and there are 2 traits of him that I want to mention, which I have been listening since I got down from the plane. In the cab, I was listening to all the comments from all his dear friends and colleagues. Number one, his generosity in terms of sharing ideas and sharing his time and sharing his resources. I have been there so many times to his library, and I know so many others, many of those attending this meeting today, those who were benefiting from him. In fact, when I went to the house of Maulana Rizwan 2 days ago, the last box that I returned him was there still. This was, I think, his 20 or 30 books that he had shared with me for helping me write the biography of Imam Ali that I just published. And on every moment, I think in so many times a week that I would bother him, and he would say to me, please call me at any time. The work you're doing is extremely important. And he would always respond so quickly. I have been guilty of at times not being able to call back within a day or so even, but he was always, even if he's 1 hour late, or if he misses a call because he's praying or he's reciting a majlis, he would, even he's calling 2 days after, 2 hours after the missed call, he would start by apologizing that I'm sorry I couldn't take your call earlier. I mean, his character in terms of this generosity of time and resources and making himself available was such an unusual, I would say, even among scholars, not because others are arrogant in any way, but because people are extremely busy. He too was extremely busy, but he was always there. Second trait that I will never forget is his always his smile, and his positive demeanor, and his positive attitude towards life. Anything you share with him, even if it is a little problematic or there's any challenge or obstacle you're talking about, he would always give it such a positive spin, or a positive, he would tweak it in a way that would encourage you. That would encourage you to do far better than one is capable of. In so many cases, I would share with him, Maulana, somebody has asked me to recite a majlis. I'm not qualified. I'm not a trained religious scholar. But what should I do? He said, no worries. I'm going to help you. And he would, at times, in the last Muharram, I think there were 3 majalis that and I told him, I said, Maulana, in English, it is so hard to recite about the Masaib. So that's why I not normally say yes to reciting majlis, because I can't do justice to at least that part, not the other part as well. But he would always, the last time I talked to him, he said, no, I'm going to pick up pen and paper. I'm going to tell you exactly how you have to say it. And it was like a father to a son, or like a teacher to a student, the way he would hold your hand and take you through that process. I'll miss him every day. That's how I would like to pay my tribute. I'm 100% sure, more than that he is in a great place among scholars in the next world. And I'm sure he's talking about the same things with a smile on his face. God bless his soul. Back to you, sir.
Jazakallah. Thank you, Professor Hassan Abbas, again for those insightful words. And truly, the work of Maulana lives on, as I said before, through scholars like you who have been nurtured and assisted by him. Inshallah, this is Sawab-e Jariyah for him. Next up, we will have a video message from Maulana Safi Haider Sahib. Hailing from Lucknow, Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, Maulana Syed Safi Haider Sahib is one of the most senior alims in India. And he has been serving as the secretary of the renowned Tanzim al-Makatib for more than 30 years. And Tanzim al-Makatib, as we know, is devoted to religious awareness, particularly amongst the Shias in India. For education, is based in Lucknow, and currently it runs over 1,200 maktabs in 38 of the provinces in India. So with that said, please let us roll the tape.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وآله الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إذا مات العالم سلم في الإسلام سلمة الله يسدها الشيء. معروف حدیث ہے، معصومین میں اس وقت یاد نہیں کس معصوم سے منسوب ہے، لیکن معصوم نے کہا ہے کہ جب یاد نہ آئے تو پیغمبر کی طرف منسوب کرو کہ ایک عالم کی موت سے ایک ایسا خلا پیدا ہوتا ہے دین میں اور اسلام میں جس خلا کو، جس شگاف کو کوئی پر نہیں کر سکتا. مولانا سید تلمیذ حسنین صاحب علی اللہ مقامہ ایک با عمل عالم، ایک مخلص دوست، ایک بہترین مربی، ایک صاحب اخلاق مومن، ایک با تقوی مسلمان، جو خوبیاں پروردگار عالم ایک انسان میں دیکھنا چاہتا ہے وہ بھی ان میں موجود تھیں. انکساری، تواضع، مہمان نوازی، خاطرداری، سیاہ قلب، ایثار، دوسروں کا پاس و لحاظ، اور وہ جو عالم میں دیکھنا چاہتا ہے وہ بھی موجود تھیں. علم تھا مگر علم کا غرور نہیں تھا، انکساری ہی انکساری تھی. اللہ نے دنیا عطا کی تھی لیکن اس پر کبھی غرور نہیں کیا. معصومین علیہ السلام کے تذکروں کو ہمیشہ اپنی عزت قرار دیا اور دوسروں کے کام آنا ان کی خصلت تھی. ایک دوست، ایک بزرگ، ایک مربی، ایک شفیق سے محروم ہوئے ہم. ان کی خوبیوں میں خوبی یہ بھی تھی کہ ہر سن و سال کے انسان کے ساتھ ایسے بے تکلف ہوتے تھے جیسے اسی کے ہم سن ہو. میں ان سے عمر میں کافی چھوٹا ہوں لیکن انتہائی بے تکلف رشتے تھے. اور ان کی خوبی تھی کہ 2-4 دن اگر بات نہ کریں تو بے چین ہو کہ مجھے فون کرتے تھے کہاں غائب ہو. اور میں ہمیشہ کہتا تھا کہ آپ فون کرتے ہیں خیریت لے لیتے ہیں، آپ نے نہیں کیا تو خیریت نہیں ملی، مگر اس پر بھی کبھی ناراض نہیں ہوئے کہ تم فون نہیں کرتے ہو. مالک ان کے درجات عالی کرے. انہوں نے جو علمی کام کیے ہیں، ان کی عربی زبان پر عبور، ان کا ترجمہ کرنے کی بہترین صلاحیت اس وقت میری نظر سے اتنا اچھا ترجمہ دقیق ترین عربی سے کرنے والا میری نظر سے نہیں گزرا ہے. دنیا بہت بڑی ہے، مختلف انتہائی علمی اور ادبی کتابوں کے ترجمے بھی کیے، تالیفات بھی کی ہیں، اور محب تھے نشر کرانے کے. یہ نہیں ہے کہ جو میں نے لکھا وہی جائے، جو انہیں مفید لگا کہ کسی کام کا ہے اس کو پہنچانے کی کوشش کی. اللہ ان کے درجات عالی کرے. اس خلا کو تو کوئی پر نہیں کرے گا لیکن مالک ہمیشہ بھیجتا رہتا ہے. قرآن میں وعدہ ہے کہ ایک آیت ہٹتی ہے یا نسخ ہوتی ہے تو دوسرے اس سے بہتر آتی ہے. پروردگار زمانے کے امام کے ظہور تک علم و فقاہت کے سلسلے کو جاری رکھنے کا وعدہ کر چکا ہے. اللہ اس فاصلے کو کم کرے جو ہمارے امام کے ظہور میں ہے اور جلد از جلد ان کا ظہور ہو تاکہ ہم سب اپنی اس آخری تمنا تک پہنچ سکیں اور جو دنیا سے چلے گئے یاد کرتے ہوئے انہیں امام کی خدمت میں حاضری کا موقع ملے. پروردگار مرحوم کے درجات عالی کرے. ان کے وارثوں جو سب کے سب ماشاءاللہ سے لائق ہیں ان کو توفیق دے کہ ان کے ادھورے اور چھوٹے کاموں کو انجام دیں، اور مجھے بھی توفیق دے. ان کا حق رفاقت اور حق احسان 30 سال سے زیادہ کے عرصے میں پھیلا ہوا ہے. اللہ مجھے بھی توفیق دے کہ میں ان کے جن کاموں میں لگے تھے علمی ان کو کسی صورت ان کے جانشین کہہ سکتا ہوں. ماشاءاللہ جوانی میں صاحب علم رضوان میاں، ان کی مدد سے وہ سارے کام مکمل ہوں اور جو خدمات کا سلسلہ انہوں نے شروع کیا تھا وہ جاری و ساری رہے. آخر دعوانا ان الحمدللہ رب العالمین.
Ahsant, Jazakallah for those words, Maulana Safi Haider Sahib. Next up, we will also have a video message from Allama Sayyid Razi Jafar Sahib, a close relation to Maulana Tilmiz and a patron of Tanzim al-Makatib in Pakistan. He's also a recipient of Sitara Imtiaz by the President of Pakistan, and he's the head of the Jafari Alliance of Pakistan and an articulate spokesman for the Shia of Pakistan. He heads the Tanzim al-Makatib and runs seminaries and social networks. With that, let us roll the tape, please.
ग्रामीण सबक खालिदना मौलाना सैयद तिलमीज हसनैन रिजवी साहब आबिद मुहम्मद इस सारे पानी से रुखसत हो गए और दुनिया के लाखों अहले ईमान के दिलों को खुशगवार इमाम मज़लूम हज़रत सैयद शुहदा के क़याम के ज़माने में दुरुस्त क़ब्र इस सारे पानी से रुखसत हो गए गोया खुद इमाम की खिदमत पहुंच गए इमाम का क़याम मना किताबों पर ऐसी गहरी नजर थी कि आप कोई किसी किताब का नाम लें कोई इबारत पढ़ें और फौरन जाएंगे अपनी को दुकाने में और वो किताब ला के पेश करेंगे उसकी इबारत अदबी ज़ौक़ बहुत ज्यादा चुनांचे हैदराबाद की जिंदगी में जो शहर के उदबा थे शोहरा थे सबका जम घटा रहता था फिर यूनिवर्सिटी में भी वहाँ जो अदबी ज़ौक़ रखने वाले थे तो हमेशा मौलाना से रास्ते में रहते तो मौलाना की तदरीसी जिंदगी गैर मामूली है उन्होंने बड़े बड़े प्रोफेसर हज़रात को डॉक्टर हज़रात को सीनियर लोगों को कुरान की तालीम से आशना किया फिर साहिब कलम लिखे उन्हें कुरान मजीद का तर्जुमा भी शाये किया तफसीर साथी का तर्जुमा साथ भी दोनों शाये किया मुखातिब जिनन का खुलासा शाये किया उसके अलावा बकसरत उनकी तारीफ़ात हैं कुछ छप चुकी हैं कुछ अभी छपने वाली हैं इंशाअल्लाह उम्मीद है कि उनके दोनों बेटे मौलाना रिजवान अलैहिस्सलाम और नदीम सल्लम इस खिदमत को अंजाम देंगे और जो किताबें उनके भी से बाकी रह गई उनको छपाएंगे ताकि बंदा खुदा उनसे फैल मौलाना मरहूम एक इंतहाई मुत्तकी बासफ़ा बाक़िरदार इंसान थे वहाँ के मुतअद्दिद इदारों में उन्होंने जमात के फ़राइज़ अंजाम दिए आस्थान ज़हरा हो बैतुल क़ायम हो या दीगर इदारे जो जिस में काम कर रहे हैं मुतअद्दिद इदारों में उन्होंने इमाम जमात के हिस्से भी फ़राइज़ अंजाम दिए शब जुमा और जुमे के इबादत में भी शरीक रहे संडे स्कूल में भी बच्चों को तालीम देते रहे लेकर बच्चों को तालीम दे रहे हैं और मदद के बाद अपने घर पर बड़ों को तालीम दे एक अरसे दराज तक डॉक्टर गजनफर डॉक्टरी साहब के घर पर बाकायदा उन्होंने दर्स कुरान का सिलसिला रखा जिसमें लोग आते थे पूर्व जवाब के सारे जो जमा होते थे मौलाना ने उनको बस दिया था इस तरह मैं कह सकता हूँ बहुत भरपूर जिंदगी गुजारी सरकार दो आलम हज़रत मोहम्मद मुस्तफ़ा सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का इरशाद दिए कि बेहतरीन जिंदगी वो है जिसमें जो सुजानी होने के साथ खैर और बरकत से भरी हुई तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मौलाना मरहूम ने 85 ईयर्स 85 साल की अच्छी जिंदगी गुजारी और भरपूर जिंदगी गुजारी आखिरी लम्हा तक कुछ न कुछ देखते रहते थे बंदगान खुदा को पैसे जाते रहते थे हत्ता कि मुझे बताया गया कि वो हॉस्पिटल में आखिरी दिन में दाखिल थे उस वक्त भी उनको फिक्र थी कि मेरा फराम मुसब्बदा बाकी रह गया है अपनी तमाम खिदमत का इंतजार पा रहे होंगे बेहतरीन जिंदगी गुजार रहे होंगे सूरह ज़ुमर में अहले जन्नत का तज़किरा मौजूद है कि जब ये लोग हिसाब किताब के मंजिल से गुजर जाएंगे इन्हें बेहतरीन लिबास पहनाया जाएगा उमदा सवारी को दिखाया जाएगा हर तरफ से फरिश्ते दुरूद सलाम पढ़ते उनको लेकर पहुंचेंगे जब जन्नत के दरवाजे पर पहुंचेंगे तो जन्नत का दरवाजा कहेगा सलाम अलैकुम सलाम हो बंदे थे आओ ये जन्नत हमेशा के लिए तुम्हारी आरामदाह मेरी दुआ है कि अल्लाह ताला मरहूम मौलाना तिलमीज़ हसनैन साहब को आला मरातिब अता फरमाए जन्नतुल फिरदौस में उनको बेहतर से बेहतर जगह अता फरमाए उनकी अहलिया जो मेरी भतीजे हैं अक्सर उनको सर्वे जमील की दावत फरमाए उनके बेटों को और बेटियों को सर्वे जमील की दावत फरमाए और उनके बेटों को तौफीक दे
Jazakallah, thank you very much for those words, Maulana Razi Jafar Sahib. Next up, we have, if he is present with us, I don't see him on the screen, but maybe he's on the phone, is Sheikh Muslim Chawla. Is he here? Yes. Thank you. Allow me a second to introduce you, Sheikh. Sheikh Muslim Mehdi Chawla is a scholar of religious sciences with a specialization in Islamic philosophy and theology. He's currently pursuing a graduate studies fellowship program at the GWU in Washington, D.C. He continues to teach courses and lecture on Islamic sciences while serving as a Muslim chaplain and a spiritual counselor. Sheikh, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Hasnain Walji and the scholars on this esteemed panel. And I feel myself honored and privileged, especially by looking at the duration I am familiar with Maulana Tilmiz Hasnain. I think it's the very little familiarity with him, especially physically, in terms of having other esteemed members of this panel. I know him virtually through his son while studying in Qom, Syed Rizvi. So we were there in Qom together. So I heard about Maulana Tilmiz, his collection, his work. But when I met him in United States, especially by looking into the time we have for this presentation, it goes back to a few years, and especially recently, just a month ago, I was invited by Astana Zahra to deliver a few majalis for the weekend of Imam Sajjad. And Maulana Tilmiz Hasnain, when he learned about my arrival in New Jersey, he called me, he made sure that I am very well taken care of. But in addition to that, he made sure that the delivery I am making is beneficial for the community, and he gave his feedback. So he called me and he said that I was very inspired by your speech and I am coming in person today to listen to you. And I told him, Maulana, it will be very difficult for you by looking into your health conditions. But he insisted and he came to the majlis. So when I saw him, it was very inspiring. There are few things, a plethora of things mentioned regarding him in the presentations. And if I were to recapitulate by looking at a hadith by our Marhoom, in which he says, ثلاثة يوجبن المحبة الدين والتواضع والسخاء. That three things will bring love of a person in the hearts of other people: the religion, the practice of religion, the humbleness, and the generosity. All of you have heard from our esteemed scholars and the guests about these three traits in his life. In terms of his scholarship, so I was very fortunate that after the majlis, he invited me to visit him next day, the Qabristan and the cemetery where he's delivering a speech. And I told him, Maulana, you're having oxygen right now. How would you deliver the speech? He said, just come tomorrow. I went to Qabristan and he decided there are majlis. And then he said, did you see me? I had no problem. And it's just an aid of oxygen. So if you want, I can remove that and I can live. So that shows a willpower. So a man of 80 years old with all those health conditions, he never felt himself that he's frail, weak, or having no capacity. And then he took me to his home. He shared a lot of things from his scholarly background. And when he learned I am from Lahore, right away he said, oh, I lived for 2 years in Lahore in 1952, and I attended Jamia Imamia with the elder brother of Maulana Razi Jafar, Agha Jafar. And I told him, Maulana, after high school, I spent a couple months in Jamia Imamia before going to Qom. And look at his humbleness. He embraced me and he said, oh, aap to mere madrase ke dost nikal hai, aap to mere madrase ke friend. I was very impressed, a scholar of this caliber and double in my age, how humble he is. And then we talked about a few scholarly things. He shared his book, which he recently received, Fathul Mubin. He was very energetic, enthusiastic, introducing that. And then one example from his scholarly expertise. He spoke about a piece of poetry by Farazdak, which he recited while eulogizing Imam Sayyid Sajjad Zainul Abidin. So I was amazed that through his memory, he recited I would say like 10, 15 couplets from that poetry, and to dedicate to him as well and to get reward, I would recite few of the phrases. He says, هذا الذي تعرف البطحاء وطأته والبيت يعرفه والحل والحرم هذا ابن خير عباد الله كلهم هذا التقي النقي الطاهر العلم هذا ابن فاطمة إن كنت جاهله بجده أنبياء الله قد ختموا. And then the last phrase which I would like to mention, and he was very passionate while reciting this. ما قال لا قدت إلا في تشهده لولا التشهد كانت لاؤه نعم. So talking about the generosity of our fourth Imam, he says that Farazdak says that our fourth Imam never refused anyone by saying a word la in Arabic. And if the word la was not mandatory to be recited during tashahhud, you wouldn't hear this from him. And even if he would utter for fourth Imam, it would be translated as yes. So that shows his dedication, his extreme love to Ahlul Bayt, and his passion to learn about them. Talking about his work, his books, always you would see a light in his eyes. So as I would conclude, as Maulana Safi Haider has mentioned that hadith by our sixth holy Imam, that إذا مات العالم ثلم في الإسلام ثلمة لا يسدها شيء إلى يوم القيامة. That when a true alim passes away, a gap is invented in the society which cannot be fulfilled until the day of judgment. And as Iqbal has a very beautiful poem, a couplet, I would say that regarding the scholars in United States, that is true for him. Ke hazaro saal nargis apni benuri pe roti hai, badi mushkil se hota hai, chaman mein deedavar paida. Indeed, he was a deedavar among the scholars and the communities of United States. May Allah bless his soul and give patience to his family members. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah, thank you. And truly, those words of Allama Iqbal resonate so very well, that he was a Deedawar in every sense of the word. And thank you for sharing the three traits where people remember him. Next up is a video from Maulana Syed Muhammad Rizvi of Toronto. In addition to Hawzawi studies, he has an MA in history at the Simon Fraser University, and has served the Shia Muslim community in BC and Vancouver as a resident alim, and is now a resident alim at the Jaffrey Islamic Center in Toronto. He is also the Secretary General of the Council of Shia Muslim Scholars. Let us roll the tape, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين واللعنة دائمة الباقي على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. The demise of Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, Maulana Syed Tilmiz al-Hasnain Rizvi, Allah maqamahu, was indeed a matter of sadness and grief for us. Maulana Sahib Marhoom was an important figure in the North American scene, especially when it came to the New Jersey area. He spent decades in that area serving the cause of the madhab of Ahlul Bayt in the best manner possible. He was active actually at different levels, whether it is teaching children in the madrasa or having classes for the adults in the community, and even encouraging some of the senior individuals into the process of studying and writing. We know, at least I know, of a couple of individuals who became writers by his guidance and inspiration. And he would guide them, where to look for the sources and how to compile issues and come up with the research in the humble way that they would be able to do on various historical issues. This is besides the normal routine of the majalis and the programs which are conducted in the Islamic centers in different parts of North America. On a personal level, I came to know him more from early 90s, and right in the beginning, we came to know that we are actually related to one another. His mother was actually from our family, and so he's basically a distant cousin to me, and so that relationship and our friendship became stronger, and we would visit one another, whenever I would go to New Jersey area, or whenever Maulana Syed will come here to Toronto. And besides that, we know that the passion and the interest of Maulana was in writing, and he used to do he would author books in Urdu language, and mashallah, he was a prolific writer. He has left a large legacy of his publications in all different topics, whether it is tafsir or akhlaq, or the issue of literature of the Ahlul Bayt. And so when I look at his life and his patience, especially when it comes to research and publications, this was one of the areas where we got even closer. Although my work is mostly in English, but he was always interested in what I'm doing, and call up and see where has this project reached, and what next you are planning. And whenever a publication would come out, he would be one of those individuals to call me up, especially to encourage me and praise me for the work. And this is something I would really miss, because from what I have seen in my life, there were only two individuals besides my late father who actually would look at my work with interest and encourage me to move forward. One was Marhoom Allama Syed Muhammad Hussain Jalali in Chicago, and the other was Maulana Tilmiz Hasnain Sahib, and he was like an older brother to me, always calling. Just after the first Ashara of Muharram this year, where I resided here in Toronto, and interestingly, I recited the entire Ashara in Urdu language, and from what I know, when he called me up after the Ashara, that he had been following my majalis, and he had very good words to describe that, and encouraged me and praised me for it. And this is the older brother feeling which was there, and that will be the main thing that I would miss as far as remembering Maulana Tilmiz al-Hasanain Sahib is concerned. As we say, it was his grace, it was his gracious look towards me, where he would as a younger brother, he would always encourage me to move forward. And these are the memories that I will always cherish, inshallah. He, alhamdulillah, has left a good legacy in form of his written works. And so I would like to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may he elevate his status, accept his good work, and I extend my condolences to the family, especially to Maulana Rizvi, and pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them the tawfiq to continue in the path of their late father. And inshallah, this will be a matter of pleasure and reward for the marhum also. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep him under the wing of his rahmah, inshallah. may I request you to remember him with Surah Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Ahsant, Jazakallah. In the interest of time, we will move very quickly on to our next presenter, who is none other than Sister Saba Abbas, a young advocate for the Muslims for Peace. She recruits volunteers and encourages people to join the volunteering work with their families. She serves as a board member of Muslims for Peace, and she's also part of the extended family of Maulana Tilmiz, Maulana Tilmiz Sahib. So with that, Sister Saba, please carry on.
Thank you. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I would like to thank Muslim for Peace and Dr. Hasnain Walji to facilitate this memorial for Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi. I'm honored to be among the speakers to pay respect and remember a remarkable personality. I would like to pay my condolences again to the whole family of Marhoom, but especially his daughters, because that's the closest I can relate to their grief, as I also lost my father about the same time 10 years ago. Father is always very special to his daughter's life. Like they say, no other love in the world is like the love of a father has for his daughters, especially the father like Maulana Sahab, who always had close relationship with all of his daughters. I often had conversations with his daughters and daughter-in-laws, and they all remember his love and his will to keep the family united. Maulana Sahab was an exemplary personality who was known for his deep compassion to serve community and his fellow beings. Today, it is our opportunity to say thank you for the way he impacted and touched many of us in his caring persona. Something was remarkable about him was his unique smile and his purnur face, which was priceless and simply unforgettable. Even though I have numerous memories with Maulana Sahab and his family as an extended family member, but I would like to highlight and share some that were deeply touched my heart. I remember speaking to my sister-in-law, Rizvi, about Maulana Sahab, about how he had selfless personality. He was a silent helper of many poor and needy around the globe, and empathetic soul with the natural ability to feel the pain of others. However, I had also witnessed his courage and sabr when his son died, and how he composed himself to support his devastated wife and his children. He even went to lead the Eid prayers, which was made most of us amazed in how he was representing himself in the grief of his own beloved son. He left an example for us to learn from Waqai Karbala, to how Imam Hussain alayhi salam stood up with sabr after sacrificing one another family members in the battlefield of Karbala. As a common individual, we all look up to our ulamas as a role model and try to follow their footsteps. And I found Maulana Sahab as a true mu'min and Alim as an excellent role model. My brother had shared special bonding with Maulana Sahab, which is very rare. And every time I visit my brother's house and see him visiting his daughter, that brought brightening and such a positivity in the house with his presence that we all enjoyed his visits to my brother's house. My side of the family had such deep collection of memories with Maulana Sahab and his family support when my father had an accident back in 2000 and he was in coma for 25 days. Maulana Sahab and his family stood up with his support to my brother, his own daughter, and my mother, as my mother used to remember that someone from their families would always be present, no matter what the circumstances were, to make sure that my family is okay. At the end, I would like to thank everyone who have joined us to remember Maulana Sahab's unforgettable memorial and share some wonderful memories today. To his wife and his children, your Abbi was a pillar of community and will be dearly missed. And your family is in my prayers, even though I shouldn't say that, but always remember that I'm only one message or call away. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
Jazakallah, thank you, Shaba, for those heartfelt words. And inshallah, we pray and we again extend our condolences to the entire family. Last but not the least, before I invite the family members and sons of Maulana Sahib, I'd like to introduce Dr. Manzoor Rizvi. We save the best for the last. Dr. Rizvi is a cardiologist by profession, founder of Payam-e-Aman and Muslim Foundation, and has helped in founding the Hawza in Medina. He is also the first cousin of the late Maulana Tilmiz Sahib and was instrumental largely in him coming to the US. Dr. Manzoor Rizvi's signature project is the Hussein Day to introduce Imam Hussein to the mainstream non-Muslim population and academia. And this happens to be one of the longest running events for the Shia in North America for over 30 years. With that said, I know that we are coming close to the end of this session. I'd like to invite Dr. Manzoor to share his candid reflections with our audience today. Dr. Sahib, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hasnain bhai. Respected ulama al-Quran and honorable panel members, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I would like to thank you all for gathering today to remember my brother, my close friend, and my colleague, Hujjatul Islam Basum Samin, Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi. My special thank goes to Mehraj and Mustafa Abdi and their team for being the torch bearer and leader in good deeds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them all. Since there were so many great speakers who spoke eloquently, I will limit myself to describe Tilmiz Bhai, his background and his coming to USA. He came from a very well-respected religious family from Ushri, Bihar, a village near Khujba, which is well known to the Muslim community, Shia community of Indo-Pak. His father was 3 brothers, all of them highly educated in religious studies. The eldest brother, Bashir uncle, after completing his studies in Lucknow, went back to his village and practiced medicine as Hakim. He has 2 daughters and no son. The next in line was my father, Syed Hamid Hussain Rizvi, who after completing his religious studies joined the school and as a teacher and he stayed in UP. He is well known for his accomplishment as a religious scholar and community worker. We were 8 brothers and 2 sisters. His maximum salary was $70 per month, but he educated us with 3 engineers, 1 professor of Aligarh University, 1 Alim ad-Din, who became the dean of the faculty at University Hospital, 1 attorney, 1 doctor, and 1 businessman. The youngest one of the 3 brothers was Maulana Izharul Hasnain Rizvi, father of Tilmiz Bhai. He went to Pakistan in 1947. He was highly educated, a religious scholar, and a muballigh. He helped establish Sultanul Madaris in Sindh And these were brothers. They were men of great character. Just give you one example of Maulana Izhar, Uncle Izhar. He was allotted, when he was in Sindh, he was allotted a big house, a mansion in Sindh. And he was told it is to replace his house in India. He refused to take that house, saying he has a small house in India and he will settle only with a small house, not a mansion. He has 3 sons and 1 daughter, all were religious all were in religious field, and Tilmiz Bhai became, of course, the bright star among them. Bahadur Shah Zafar has sent have a share that Umre Daraz मांग के लाए थे 4 दिन, 2 कट गए उम्मीद में, 2 इंतजार में. These gentlemen never expected anything from anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and never waited for anybody except 12th Imam. They worked hard to get to their to the destination. Now one can see what type of gene were carried by Tilmiz Bhai. In early 1980, he visited India, and following that, I received a letter from my father, why don't you call Tilmiz to USA? Following that, I received another letter from my brother, who says the same thing, please call him and he will not be disappointed. And for sure, I was not disappointed then, and we were never disappointed for the last 35 years. So we called him in New York for the Majalis in around 1984 for reciting Marhoom Majalis. Of course, he was very successful. Around the same time, Muslim Foundation was incorporated and was looking for an alim. We offered him to stay. He agreed. So we had 1-year contract with him, Marhoom Mustafa Jafar, myself, and Alavi Foundation contributed to the expenses. As the next year approached, we were thinking what arrangement to make when he declared that he desired to be independent, and so he did. During his stay with the MFI, we established a directorate with him and Marhoom Rizvi as secretary. He used to stay with me and my brother. We used to, every morning, we used to drop him at the mahfil and bring him back in the evening. He did great job as director, solving Bomnin's problem, helping everybody in the tri-state area. It was a very successful enterprise. Of course, one of the important things that happened was the establishment of Namaz Juma. And of course, that was the time that sometimes you cannot get even 5 people for this thing, for Namaz Juma. But now, alhamdulillah, 500 and more people pray Namaz Juma every Friday in New Jersey alone. He then settled in New Jersey, was helped and was helpful to the community. Whenever they need, wherever they need, he is there. When we started Sunday school at Mahfil, he was there to help. When we started writing books under Payam Yaman, he was there at every step of the way. During last 35 to 30 years, Tilmiz Bhai became the soul and inspiration for New Jersey community. The community loved him and he loved the community. He served the community very, very well. He worked very hard. He loves teaching and especially Quran. His area of work expanded from Baitul Qaim, Baitul Asr, Astana to Shah Najaf Center in New York. In between, he used to go to Momnin house to teach Quran to their children. He also used to take Quranic lessons for adults in the evening. I don't think during that time anybody in Central and South and North New Jersey will find out anybody who has not been taught by him. In short, his life was all services, community with and without payment. My Tilmiz Bhai was a great man. He never demanded respect. He earned it. He was a real Ban Abde Khuda and servant of Ahle Bayt. Whenever and wherever community needed, he was there with him with a smiley face and down-to-earth attitude. He used to send $300 each month to Pakistan and $300 to India, to his distant relative. In India, he doesn't have any close relative, distant relative, but he does it. He used to do it every single month. He used to be called encyclopedia of religious knowledge among his peers. He was a friend, a servant, a surprise of New Jersey. He was a pillar of New Jersey. People will come and people will go, but he will remain with us forever. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki yawmiddin iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin.
Thank you, Dr. Manzoor, for that history, and thank you for being so instrumental in having Maulana Sahib here on the U.S. soil, and truly, like him, you too are a pillar of our community, and we thank you for your services. Thank you. As we come to the end of this memorial tribute, I'd like to invite his second eldest son, Syed Nazim Rizvi, who used to work or has worked with Maulana Sahib to compile his books, to help him briefly with translations. And he's also worked with the Ahlul Bayt School with their curriculum. And he happens to be in my city here in Houston for the time being. So, Syed Nazim, please, the floor is yours.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the Rizvi family, I would like to convey our sincere thanks to all of those who send their condolences from the US, Canada, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, UAE, etc. since the demise of my father, Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi. Your kind words mean a lot to us at this moment of mourning this great loss. I would like to apologize for the inability to respond to everyone who reached out, but your calls and messages have brought us great comfort during this difficult time. मौलाना के साथ एक बहुत तवील अरसा गुजारा है और यकीनन कहने को बहुत कुछ है, लेकिन वक्त की तंगी है। फिर भी मौलाना के जाने के बाद से जो भी मिला है वो मौलाना का इस तरह जिक्र करता है जैसे मौलाना और उसके दरमियान बहुत ही करीबी ताल्लुक है। और चूँकि हमारी फैमिली न्यू जर्सी में बहुत अरसे शुरू से ही मुकीम रही है और न्यू जर्सी वालों से बहुत ही करीबी ताल्लुक है और बिल्कुल मुख्तलिफ नौइयत का ताल्लुक है, जैसे एक बिग फैमिली। गुज़िश्ता कुछ सालों से काम के गरज से मुल्क के दीगर इलाकों में रहने का इत्तेफाक हुआ और वहाँ रहते हुए जिस सेंटर में भी जाने का मौका मिला, वहाँ लोगों के दिलों में मौलाना के लिए वही ताज़ीम और तकरीम देखी जैसी हर जगह देखने को मिली। और आखिर में आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि इस मुश्किल वक्त में आप सब ने बहुत साथ दिया और हमारे मरहूम दिलों पर मरहम रखा। परवरदिगार से दुआ है कि बहक़ पंजतन पाक बहक़ चाहत मासूमीन मौलाना सैयद तिलमीज़ हसनैन रिज़वी साहब को आला इल्लीन में जगह इनायत फरमाए। I humbly request everyone to recite a Surah Fatiha for Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi, Ibn Syed Izharul Hasnain Rizvi. Thank you.
Ahsan, Jazakallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. And finally, I would like to invite Maulana Rizvi to share his reflection towards the end for this memorial. He's a graduate of Islamic seminaries of Lahore, Qum, as well as Syria. Syed Rizwan is the illustrious son of Maulana Tilmiz, currently serving as a resident alim of Masjid Ali. He is an encouraging example of the second generation of scholars who have adapted to the needs of time in constructing relative narratives for the upcoming generation. This is the nurturing of those scholars and the leaders of the community. So allow me to conclude this session by recalling the hadith of the Blessed Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the best of what a man leaves behind are three: a righteous child who supplicates for him, ongoing charity, the reward of which reaches him, and a knowledge that is acted upon after him. Indeed, our dear departed scholar, Hujjatul Islam al-Muslimin, Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Syed, was blessed with all the three. And we pray that through these, that he continues to benefit from this Sawab Jariyah. Our duty, as the hadith says, is to ensure that the knowledge that we all gain from him is acted upon. As for the righteous child, we feel reassured that through his son and his family, the upcoming generations will inshallah be served well. To conclude, before I hand this over to Maulana Rizwan, I would like to express my deep appreciation to Mustafa Abdi, Miraj Abdi, Sabah Abbas, as well as the AV team for working behind the scenes to make this event possible. And above all, we'd like to thank all the presenters and for all the viewers for their participation. And as I invite Syed Rizwan to offer us his reflection, please recite a Surah Fatiha for the Marhoom. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Hasnain bhai.
No. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First of all, I would like to thank Muslim for Peace, Miraj Abdi, Mustafa Abdi, Dr. Hasnain Walji, all the scholars who took part in this memorial service, all of the friends of Marhoom, Maulana Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi, colleagues, affiliates, however your relationship may have been with him, for contributing, and students, of course, can't forget them, for contributing and sharing your thoughts, really touching and moving words that cannot be expressed, and no words can express appreciation towards what you have done. Some of the people had alluded toward the scholarly stature of Maulana and his extensive library. I was following along as I'm not in town. I'm out of state, and so I was listening to the speakers, especially professors such as Najam Hassan and Hassan Abbas, for Najam Haider and Hassan Abbas for talking about Maulana's library. So I guess people will be wondering as to what kind of library it was, and we haven't been able to see it. So here I just wanted to show you what they were referring to in a 1 minute long clip that I have created. While you watch this clip as it rolls of the library of Maulana Syed Tilmiz, books, collected over the period of 60, 70 years, dating back to our grandfather, Marhoom Maulana Syed Rizvi Sahab. In this library, there are still many books that belong to him. And then, of course, majority of these books are the heritage, and have inherited this from our father. And hopefully we can pay, due respect to all his scholarly work and this extensive library that he has left behind. He was always hopeful that someone will carry over and carry on with his legacy. And when he asked, or he decided for me that I would take this, job and move forward and be in the line that he was in, I don't know, I can't really remember if I graciously accepted it or I had some resentment or whatever the case may have been, but nonetheless, he asked me, and this is the place where he used to sit before getting sick, and with books all surrounded by, on the chair, on the side, and all around him. This was just an overview of the collection of books that he had, and close to about 10,000 books, we believe, a little bit more or less. Again, I don't want to take your time. I'd like to thank everyone for taking part in this memorial, and inshallah, we continue to pay our respects to Marhoom, as he has deeply touched many hearts, many families across the globe. He always said one thing which resonates well with his scholarly level as well, with his humility and humbleness. He said, when I die, write on my tombstone, Asha Tilmizan Bamata Tilmiza, that he lived as a Tilmiz. Tilmiz meaning student, Shagird, and Mata Tilmizan, that he left this world in the state that he's a student of Ahlul Bayt. This is Surah Fatiha from Marhoom Syed Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi. Thank you very much.
गंजे शुहदा बना दिया गया और हुसैन को की कब्र बना दी और हुर इब्न यजीद रियाही ये हुर जो थे इनका सर कलम नहीं किया गया था, इनके कबीले वाले लेके चले गए, उन्हें दूर दफन किया। इस तरीके से हुर की कब्र अलग है। ये लोग चले गए, रास्ते भर तकलीफें उठाते रहे। आप मुसलसल सुनते रहे हैं वाकयात कि किस तरीके से दरबारों में शहजादियां गई है। जरा तसव्वुर करें, ये दरबार नहस और शूम का दरबार, ये शराबियों का दरबार, और इसमें ये शहजादियां जो घर से कदम बाहर नहीं निकालती थी, कि जब भी जियारत के लिए जाती थी जनाब ज़ैनब, तो एक तरफ हसन होते थे, एक तरफ हुसैन होते थे, और लेकर जाया करते थे और जियारत करती थी। अब पहुंची है दरबारों में, अजीब कैफियत है। सईद सज्जाद ने भी खुतबा दिया था, और जब कहा तो इजाजत नहीं मिल रही थी, और ये इजाजत मिली है तो आपने खुतबा देना शुरू किया। मन अरफनी अरफनी वलम यारिफनी अना वरफहू अनब्दु मक्का व मना अनब्दु ज़मज़म सिफा, जो मुझे पहचानता है, जो नहीं पहचानता मैं तारुफ कराता हूँ। मैं मक्का मिना का बेटा हूँ, मैं ज़मज़म और सफा का बेटा हूँ, मैं उसका बेटा हूँ कि जो मेराज पे गया था, मैं उसका नज़ारे में सफ़ेद, मैं उसका बेटा जो तलवारों से जंग करता था और फातिह बद्र हुनैन था। और उसके बाद से आपने कहते कि अभी नमाज का वक्त नहीं आया था कि उसने जब देखा कि लोग पलट रहे हैं, लोग मुनक़लिब हो रहे हैं, यजीद ने मुअज्जिन से कहा खुतबा दे, अज़ान दे दो। अब जो मुअज्जिन अज़ान देना शुरू की तो आपने कहा मुअज्जिन जरा ठहर जा, और जब कहा ना अल्लाह अकबर, तो आपने भी कहा अल्लाह अकबर। जब उसने कहा अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, तो आपने भी कहा अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। जब उसने कहा अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह, तो कहा ठहर जा। और फिर यजीद की तरफ रुख किया, बताइए यजीद, ये मोहम्मद तेरे इज्जत थे या मेरे इज्जत? अगर कहता तेरा इज्जत तो झूठा है, तो मेरे इज्जत तो बता तूने क्या किया सलूक उनके नवासी के साथ और उनके नवासियों के साथ तूने क्या सलूक किया है। और उसके बाद से कहते हैं कि ज़लज़ला आया, करीब लाहिरे के हिलाकर हुकूमत को रख दिया था। सानिया ज़हरा के खुतबों ने भी, सैयद सज्जाद के खुतबों ने भी, आखिरकार वो वक्त आया कि मजबूर हो गए कि इनको इजाजत दे दी जाए और इनको छोड़ दिया जाए, रिहाई कर दिया जाए। फिर कहा क्या है, बशीर इब्न जज़लम को मुकर्रर किया गया कि इनके लिए इंतजाम करिए और ले जाएं। और फिर रिहाई से पहले जनाब ज़ैनब ने कहा देखो हमें अगर तुम रिहा कर रहे हो तो जितने तबर्रुकात हैं वो सब हमें वापस कर दो, जो तुमने लूटे हैं वापस कर दो और एक जगह दे दो। कहते एक जगह दे दी गई, वहां जमा हुए और सबने जमा होकर रिहाई के बाद 3 दिन तक वहां पर गम मनाया गया, सोग मनाया गया। यानी यूं समझे मजलिस बर्पा की, जिसकी सुन्नत और तरीका जनाब ज़ैनब ने डाला है, वहां मजलिस बर्पा हुई। और उसके बाद से कहते हैं एक एक तबर्रुक आने लगा, जिस तरह से हम लोग जियारत करते हैं, कभी अलम आता है, कभी ताबूत आता है, ऐसे ही कभी किसी का सर आ रहा था, कभी किसी का सर आ रहा था, कभी कोई किसी का बुंदा आ रहा था, कभी किसी की चादर आ रही थी। अजीब कोहराम बर्पा था। और 3 दिन के बाद से जब रवानी हुई है तो कहते जनाब ज़ैनब आई और आने के बाद पहुंची है कहाँ पर, यहाँ सकीना नबी थी। बेटी हम तुम्हारे बाप के पास जा रहे हैं, अगर कोई पैगाम हो तो बता दो। कहते वहां से चली है, रवाना हुए। और उधर अतिया ऊफी बयान करते हैं कि अतिया ऊफी कहते हैं जाबिर में अब्दुल्ला अंसारी के साथ था, कब्र बन चुकी थी। पहले जाहिर कब्र हुसैन के जाबिर अब्दुल्ला अंसारी हैं, वहां पर कहते कि अतिया ऊफी बयान करते हैं जाबिर ने दरियाए फुरात में गुस्ल किया, लिबास पहना, खुशबू लगाई, जिसको मुअत्तर किया, नंगे पांव चले हैं। ये जो चलना है ये सुन्नत है उनकी। और जाहिर के मोमिन की निशानी जो इमाम 11वें इमाम ने बयान की है कि ज़ियारतुल अरबईन 5 निशानियों में से एक निशानी अरबईन की ज़ियारत भी है, जो आज वाक करते हैं। 11वें इमाम की बताई हुई निशानी है। आज पूरी दुनिया मौजज़ा देख रही है कि किस तरह से पूरी उम्मत वाक करती है और जाती है और चल के जाके ज़ियारत करती है। वाकई इतना बड़ा इज्तिमा दुनिया में नहीं है। ये जज़्ज़ाबियत है, ये कशिश हुसैन की जो खींच रही है। कहते हैं जब गए हैं जाबिर, जाने के बाद से इमाम हुसैन की खबर बंदर पड़ी, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन 3 दफा कहा और गश खा के गिर गए। उठे कहा मेरे आका मैं आपको आवाज दे रहा हूँ, आप मेरी आवाज सुन रहे या नहीं सुन रहे? आपका जवाब अभी नहीं आ रहा है। अजीब कैफियत थी, गिरिया कर रहे थे, इतने में आग लग गई। और फिर क्या, खेत में देखा कि एक आवाज आई। हुसैन ने कहा है जाबिर तुम यहाँ हो, मेरा बेटा आ रहा है, मेरी बहन आ रही है, जाओ और जाकर इस्तिकबाल करो। जाबिर कहते मैं चला उधर, औरत ये ऊफी के साथ चले हैं। और जाने के बाद से वहां पहुंचे, कहते हैं देखा तो काफिला रहा, अब महफिल भी है, हमारी भी है, सारी चीजें हैं। जाबिर गए हैं और इतने में जब देखा जाबिर को, इमाम ज़ुलाफी उतरने लगे। कहा नहीं उतरे नहीं, अभी बोला अभी कुछ फासला है, हम साथ चलते हैं, आप अभी सवार रहे। कहते हैं चले। और जाहिर है कि जाबिर जब उतरने लगे तो जाबिर ने पूछा कि इमाम क्यों उतर रहे? कहा मैंने देखा मेरे बाबा खुद आए हैं, इसलिए मैं बाबा के इस्तिकबाल के लिए उतर रहा हूँ। अल्लाह, खुदा किसी गम हुसैन के कहते हैं आने के बाद से बीवियों ने अपने जब देखा है कब्रों को, कब्र में गिर गई होगी ज़ैनब, कहा भैया आपकी अमानत की मैं हिफाजत न कर सकी, भैया मैं सकीना को छोड़ आई हूँ। एक एक बीवी कब्र قبر پہ تھی اور گریا کر رہی تھی. ادھر حضرت ام کلثوم حضرت عباس کی قبر پہ گئی اور کہا بھیا میں کیا داستان سناؤں, کوفے میں ہم پر کیا گزری, شام میں ہم پر کیا گزری, تازیانے مارے گئے, ہمیں ستایا گیا, ہمیں ننگے پاؤں چلایا گیا, زنجیریں باندھی گئی, سید سجاد کو جکڑ دیا گیا, اور سکینہ جو آپ کی شہیدی تھی وہ مر گئی. بھیا کہتے رباب سے کہا گیا 3 دن کے بعد کہ اب چلے روانہ ہو مدینے کی طرف. رباب کہتی ہے میں کیا کروں گی جا کے, میرا زر حسین یہاں پر ہے, علی اصغر یہاں پر ہے, سکینہ قید خانے میں مر گئی, میں یہی رہوں گی, مجاوری کروں گی, میں جانا نہیں چاہتا.